Good Friday evening, everybody. Welcome into Outside the Zone, Week 4 edition. Jordan Furby joined by Jesse Krall here on Facebook Live. Jesse, we are now just about at the halfway point of the high school football regular season.
Of next week, isn't it halfway? And there we go.
Yeah, that's
essentially. Yeah, there we go. See,
smart man.
Thinking.
We had a fun lineup of games coming up tonight. I think we said we had 11 ranked teams in the show, 15 games. Let's start right away with obviously our game of the week. BRLD hosting Norfolk Catholic. The Wolverines were undefeated going into this one. Norfolk Catholic's only loss came to number 1 Pierce. I was impressed with BRLD. They proved that they can play with Norfolk Catholic. They right here, this series would end up tying the game at 14-14 in the second quarter. Norfolk Catholic ended up, here's the thing. BRLD had a lot of players playing both ways. Yep. Norfolk Catholic doesn't. So that's where, again, them moving down and being one of the larger C2 schools, I think they just ended up wearing out the Wolverines. But BRLD, I think, is going to take a lot of lessons from this. You hate to say 49-14. I mean, you don't want to say, okay, the game was closer than it was, but it kind of was. BRLD really showed that they can play against Norfolk Catholic. They're going to take some lessons from this. Dan Marsh, I'm sure he's already looking at when they could potentially meet again in the playoffs. But I think also looking at the Knights, Norfolk Catholic proved if there was any question, they're still the team to beat in Class C2. They won't have to play Pierce again, the only team that handed them a loss. Knights looked good. Dylan Couts looked great. Ethan Piper looked great. It's full steam ahead. They get a homecoming game against Crofton next week. So Norfolk Catholic just
well, that's what I was talking about. BLRD's coach Dan Marsh. He was saying that this is where we have to meet. This is the bar right here, and we've got to meet.
I think he said we'll know where we measure against a state championship level. So they know. We've seen this before, where a team can sometimes really win the first game, but it should be fun if these two do end up meeting later up in the season.
Exciting.
Our next game that we got to, BHRV SBL. This was another battle of ranked foes. Number 1 versus number 10. I'll just let you take it away because this was a fun game.
This is exciting. Obviously, I walk up and it's 21-7, so I'm kind of
21-7 BHRV.
Yeah, BHRV. Excuse me. So I'm kind of sitting there going, all right, not surprising, Nighthawks, they're dominating this year. You got JT Van Hull under center, and he actually he didn't play in the second half. I came up.
Injury.
Injury.
Wow.
Something with his ankle. Obviously I didn't get it on film or heard what happened, but I was talking to a couple of people on the sidelines. They were mentioning that,
but SBL I think won this game. It wasn't. I'm sure obviously that plays a factor, but man, you were talking how much you're impressed with Daniel Wright.
Oh, Daniel Wright, and I just told you in the highlights earlier in the show, the Sports Zone show. He's getting looked at he's getting looked at. I don't know if he's been offered by Minnesota. So PJ Fleck, rolling that boat, baby.
Right?
So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. 6'6", 6'7" quarterback. I mean, the kid likes to play basketball, but if you get offered, and start picking up those D1 offers, I mean, you gotta. I don't know, man. You don't want to get hurt or anything like that.
6'6" quarterbacks don't grow on trees, and I tell you what. Look at the NFL contracts that are out there. We're getting way ahead of ourselves, but look at the NFL contracts that are away from there. A lot of these guys that are getting paid right now, 6'3", 6'4". Basketball may be their first love, but you can have a future in football as well. And like I said, being 6'6", man, does that help. He's a great basketball player, great baseball player. You could probably play college ball in any of those sports, but man, does SBL look impressive. And especially, and we talked about this in week 1, not a great showing against Lewis Central. Now, Lewis Central, number 1 team in the state, still undefeated.
TCU.
Yes.
I'll take Daniel any day of the week. Let's
Max
go, baby.
Duggan, absolutely. We'll see how TCU does against my Buckeyes tomorrow. But I digress. Let's go back to talk about SBL. They have learned, and we talked about this too, Justin Smith is going to have this team clicking on all cylinders, and we're only in week 4, going into week 5, and with that brutal of a schedule, they played number 1, they played number 7, they played a 4A team, they now played number 1 in 2A, and guess who's waiting next week? Number 5 Heelan.
It's going to be exciting.
It's going to be, I get goosebumps talking about it. It's going to be awesome. Speaking of the Crusaders, they were in for a battle against West, and I think let's give kudos to the Wolverines. This team, this program has come so far. I was so impressed watching West last week when they played Sioux City North. I'm even more impressed. I haven't even seen this game. Jesse, tell me your thoughts, what you saw over at Olsen.
Well, I mean, it's just a battle, defensive battle over there, and I honestly, like I said to you, and like I said to a couple other people, I think West, honestly, they play tough teams, but they are, I'm not going to say they're the real deal. They're not going to win state championships, unfortunately.
Not yet, not yet.
Unfortunately, but they can handle themselves. And I mean, you see Heelan, a team that obviously, they're going to be good on offense and defense, but I mean, Aiden Belt back there, he can just fling it.
That dude's
just
a real
right
deal.
Here. Yeah, exactly.
He can play at the next level, I believe.
And I left it, and West was up. So, I'll be honest, I went to the SPL game, and I told people, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that West is up.
West has come a long way, I think. I think you probably saw, with Heelan obviously taking over in the second half, is that depth issue. Probably the same thing that we saw with BRLD. West, the numbers aren't there for the Wolverines
35
yet.
or 36.
Yep. So a lot of the guys do have to play, both ways. That was a heck of a catch, man.
Got called back though. I got called back. Yeah, I put it on because it was
okay.
cool.
Okay, we'll still put that in there. But kudos to the coaches over at Sioux City West. They are finally starting to get that football program and that kind of not legacy, but starting
mentality.
to build, the football mentality. So it's going to be interesting to see West down the stretch. They start district play coming up next week, so they'll get to play some of the Des Moines schools. We'll really get to see the measuring stick, but definitely impressed with Sioux City West and obviously with Sioux City Heelan.
They can bring it too, honestly. I'm not going to say they're going to upset top 5 teams,
no.
but they could.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I wouldn't be surprised if they get those tough wins, those gritty wins that 2 years ago they got blown out. And you see those, like I said, that Heelan game where it's like, I'm not surprised. 2 years ago, I'd have been, on the fence about it, saying, Heelan's going to win by 40. But now it's Wolverines are.
They definitely showed that they belong.
Talent.
And let's, give our props to Heelan too. We haven't really talked a lot about the Crusaders. 5-0, or excuse me, 4-0, looking to move to 5-0 next week. Coach Jansen has right where he left off, right back clicking. But if we've seen one thing from Heelan, we'll talk obviously more about this next week, depending on what our game of the week is. If we've seen one weakness from Heelan, it's SBL the last couple of years.
Yep.
I think the Warriors have won 3 or 4 straight.
Yep.
I think this will be looking for 5 in a row. So definitely going to be an interesting one. Gosh, I can't even wait for next week already. Let's head up to the Lakes. Our chief photographer, Jonathan Mack, behind the computer here, was up here. And J-Mac, you got up to this game. Sioux Center's winning it. A little surprise there?
I couldn't tell you because, by the way, I was watching the game. It was all Spirit.
I was going to say, when J-Mac showed up, maybe you should go to Spirit Lake games more often. The Indians will probably love you. The Indians finished the game on, what was it, a 17-0 run?
The second half, or the second quarter, they win.
Yeah, they were down 13-7,
and
they scored 17 straight to win or to go up 24-13 at the half. The Indians have I don't want to say quietly, but they're kind of in their own zone up in the Lakes a little bit. They're insulated, but we wanted to cover this game because they've been so good, and now with them winning, could they potentially take over the top spot in Class 2A?
They've always had talent. Offensively, you can see it. Not that play, you can't see it, but obviously, offensively, they've had strong quarterbacks past couple of years. I think their past quarterback is in Morningside, or at Morningside, I should say.
That's a nice kick too.
It was definitely.
I think is that the same kicker that made the 50-yarder against Heelan last year? That's what I thought. Yeah. That is pretty darn impressive.
So they got kickers too.
They can score from all aspects of the game. Josh Beloit, it's fun to watch that because if you look, they won the state title in 2012. They rebuilt. They won the state title in 2015. Here we are 3 years later. It's almost like clockwork how he gets that program going up in the lake. So it's going to be fun to follow the Indians the rest of the season. Our final game that we're going to go over, I'm not going to lie, we thought it was going to be a lot closer. West Winona came in its best start in, I think, about 25 years. They haven't made the playoffs since 1993. But, man, Akron-Westfield has just been clicking since their Week 1 loss to Westwood. I think it was 7-6 was the final in that one.
This kid's the real deal, I'm telling you. I went to Akron-Westfield 2-a-days, and I like these previews and stuff like that. You don't know what's going to happen. He's built.
He impressed you that much?
The coach even goes, he looks like, quote-unquote, he goes, he looks like a Greek god. And, are you surprised by walking stick by saying that?
No, exactly. He's the man. I love that guy.
So he was talking to me about... I'm losing his name right now, but the quarterback,
Nick Jacobs.
Nick Jacobs, yes. Kid's built, and I could see him at practice. His practice.
And Jacobs, I think, switched from wide receiver to quarterback this year.
Because they had Cal Eskra the past couple of years under center. So the kid, he's the real deal. He can run it, he can throw it. He obviously, if they put him out at wide receiver, he can catch it. Yeah. But I don't know, the Akron-Westfield team, when I went up there, they seem to have a mentality about them that, we didn't do the past couple of years too well. They went to the Dome, I think, 4 years ago.
Let's see, that would have been 2015, I believe.
So 3 years ago?
If I'm right. Yeah, so 3 seasons ago.
They still got that, stingy mentality because the seniors were freshmen when that happened.
I was going to say, you told me when you came back that they were talking how they wanted to get back to the Dome.
And
every team does.
Every team does.
Not
but
every team
I can tell you that this team had that certain mentality and that certain edge where it's like, I can see this. I wouldn't be surprised if they do make it back to the Dome, and obviously they're carrying the weight right now. Obviously, an exciting game against Hinton next week. That's going to be
I was just going to lead into that. I'm trying to find to talk about our Nebraska squads, but let's just recap what we have now that we're getting ready to move to week 5. We've got undefeated Bishop Heelan. I think I can't remember if they're hosting or not. Anyway,
that's a good question.
They play 3-1 Sergeant Bluff Luton.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be most likely a top 10 showdown, maybe a top 5 depending on how much SBL moves up. We've got undefeated Hinton taking on 3-1 Akron Westfield, so that's going to be a battle in Class A. And then let me get my yes, they all won at least who played tonight in Nebraska in 8-man in D2. Randolph is undefeated, Bloomfield is undefeated, Allen is undefeated, and Hartington Newcastle is undefeated. And I think it's Randolph at Hartington Newcastle, 3-0 versus 3-0, and Allen at Bloomfield, 3-0 versus 3-0. I don't know what we're going to do. We may have to have like 6 games of the week next week.
J-Mac, there you go.
Live interviews. Right? We're going to have J-Mac, Jacob. Maybe we'll get our news director, Dan, to see if he can come in and do some live hits. He used to be out in the field, too. So it is going to be a fun time. J-Mac, anything to add from what you saw tonight? Obviously, you saw the Spirit Lake game and the Esterville-Lincoln Central game. It was all midgets when you were there.
Yeah, it was all midgets. I mean, the first, right on the kickoff, I was just like, oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Because I was no offense, guys, I was on a time crunch. I was trying to get as many highlights.
Let's say J-Mac made the 2-hour drive up to Esterville, got Esterville-Lincoln Central for 15 minutes.
10.
Yeah. See, we would love to stay at these games, for the whole length of the games, but we got time crunches. Esterville over to Spirit Lake and back here. What time did you get back? 10:30? 5?
10:45. Yeah.
And went the speed limit too, so that's saying something. Safe driver out there on the road. So.
I actually was listening to the SBL BHRV game on the way back, so kudos to SBL on the comeback.
Mm-hmm.
Also, got to check on my high school. Great comeback for Westwood, 43.
Give you a shout out, my man.
Mm-hmm.
Give you a shout out.
Yeah.
That
What was the final? 43.
43-34.
Nice.
Moves them to 3-1 now.
There we go. And like we said, this is big now because all teams are entering district play. It still matters, but it's obviously not as important. Well, it still is important. It's just different this year with the non-district games obviously factoring in with the RPI. The first RPI rankings actually came out from the state this past week, and if you haven't seen them, go check them out on the association's website. West would be in as of earlier this week. The loss against Heelan may hurt them a little bit. Heelan was atop the class in 3A. So they're pretty impressive, and we had a bunch of other teams. It'll start to become a little bit clear as the season starts to wind down. It still is interesting how they take into fact your wins and losses, your opponents' wins and losses, and your opponents' wins and losses. If you followed that at home,
I was gonna say I won't be able to work there. I can't do the math.
Well, and I just think it's interesting too that the NCAA basketball is getting away from the RPI system, and now high school football is getting to the RPI system.
Yep,
I've been a proponent. 32 is too much, especially in Class 4A where there's only 36 or 40 teams. You have to crunch the teams into 8 districts, which that may make some things a little tougher. But 8 districts, the district champion gets a bye, and then you have 16 other teams based on points.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it based on somewhat of an RPI. I think they can twiddle with the RPI system that they have now, but I think 24 teams, district champions have a first round bye, and maybe even limit the season to shorten it by a week.
Yeah,
that may help alleviate some things. And I've also heard some people talk about what the union did for girls, adding a 5th class. Do that for football. So you have a Class 5A with the Dowlings, the Valleys, the Iowa City Highs, the Iowa City Wests, the Ames, all those, and then have 4A be your Wests, your North, your East. Some of the smaller quote unquote 4A schools that can kind of belong and be competitive. Because people watching at home, they know it's tough for Sioux City schools in Class 4A to make the playoffs, let alone contend for a state title.
People talk about all 3 schools coming together. It's like I don't know how you'd make that work.
No, I don't think that's the answer. It could work, but I just think there's too much involved, and I think you kind of lose. I don't say a little bit of school pride, but yeah, a little bit. It's just I think you're seeing the programs. North is up on the rise, East is coming. You're starting to see the programs start to get built back up there. But how far they can go is the big question. I think, we'll see these teams start to contend for a playoff spot. Like I said, 32 was too much, but I think 24 is nice. Then you can see, your East, your North, your West be able to get into the playoffs, and who knows, maybe surprise some people.
Hey, all I know is that it's going to be busy for us in the postseason. If everything holds true, if everything just keeps going and stuff like that.
That's every year. It doesn't seem to fail. So
All right, so we have a couple of comments here. First off,
Yeah, sorry, we're yakking away. We didn't even get a chance to comment. Sorry.
This was from Tammy, and I already replied to her. Sorry, Tammy, but we were not able to make it to the OABCIG Storm Lake game, unfortunately.
Yeah, we do want to talk about that, though. Obviously, OABCIG was able to remain undefeated. Storm Lake, this actually happened to be an undefeated matchup. It looked like it was 3-0 versus 2-1, but then Storm Lake had their game against Humboldt that they lost. Humboldt using an ineligible player.
I'm interested.
It goes down as a 1-0 win for the Tornadoes. So they were undefeated going into tonight, but a good win for OABCIG. J-Mac, I know we got out to Ida Grove a couple weeks ago when they played East Sac. Yeah, East Sac County. So we'll be visiting Ida Grove probably a lot more often now that they're off to an undefeated start. With some other comments.
Anthony wants you guys to just comment a little bit about South Sioux.
Didn't get a chance to see South Sioux.
No, I've covered them in the first game of the year.
Go ahead, Jess.
They got the talent. I mean, not say that, it's over the top and, you're going to get those D1 recruits or anything like that. But I'll say they have some pieces there. I mean, they don't have, obviously, a lot of pieces there, but they have some pieces there. And you can definitely, group it together. But when you have kids that, are seniors and all they've known is losing, it's kind of tough, to implement that winning tradition. Yeah. I think that's why they brought Silas in. From Wayne State, who has broke plenty of records from Wayne State Wildcats, has been there, done that, but it's just tough to rally the troops, if you want to call it that, to get out of that mindset that you're going to lose some games, but you're not going to lose them all, or that kind of mindset.
Yeah, and South Sioux, let's talk this year. They have kind of done, if you've watched us, we've talked about Wakefield being a C2 school but having to play down in D1 because they don't feel like they can compete at that level despite what their enrollment numbers say. That's what the classes are always based off of. South Sioux is a Class A school but playing a Class B schedule, so they're ineligible for the playoffs. But I think right now for the Cardinals, they just need to focus on getting better. Rome, as they say, was not built in a day. South Sioux has shown that they can be competitive in boys soccer, in girls basketball, and boys basketball. They have state titles in all three of those sports. So this will come. It's probably going to be a 4 or 5 year process for them to get things rolling. But there's not a doubt in my mind, I think, that they can be competitive. You have to get the numbers out. You saw it. I guess a good comparison would be North and West. Their numbers were way down and kind of still are to a certain extent. But you have to get the players that want to be there out on the field. And I think as time grows on and those players that want to be there start building a program, then you're going to attract some more guys that do want to be there as you get them up from the 7th and 8th grade in the junior high and middle school program. So I know it's frustrating for South Sioux, but I mean,
it kind of takes that 1 year.
Yeah,
though. I mean,
it really does. And it may take a couple years, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, it could be that 1 year where you get
successful.
one. Look at Briarcliff, another Wayne State guy leading them. You get that one win, and then it becomes two. It's a snowball effect. So hold your heads high, South Sioux fans. I know it's been a rough couple years, but I think there are brighter days on the horizon.
Exactly.
All right, Tyler Vanderloos.
Hey, T-Lou, what's up, buddy?
He says, talk about the Cubs winning. I'm sorry, but this is a football show. We're not going to go into that.
Tyler, October is reserved for the Cubs, and ESPN can talk about that. So go Cubs, go. Yeah, that's coming from an Indians fan.
And then we have a comment here from a person named Omaha Play saying, the game of the season is Heelan versus Sergeant Bluff. He believes that it is a state championships kind of game, and you have to see this next week.
I wish we all.
I was going to say I don't need to say anything because truer words have never been spoken. Yeah, it probably wouldn't be a state championship game only because the association would never allow it. It would happen probably in the state semifinals. But I see your point. It would definitely take place in the Dome, and who knows? It could take place in the Dome. Roger Jansen, Justin Smith, Brant Hogue, Daniel Wright. There's some, let's see, Delperdang and, oh gosh, I can't even think
running
of
back for Heelan?
Yeah, shoot. I can't think of his name. Sorry, I just blanked on it. I had it. But yeah, they've got the playmakers. It's going to be must-see TV next week. Do you see how hard our decision is when we have to try to pick these games? Thankfully, I mean, we let you, the fans, choose it, but we have to narrow it down to 2 games to pick from.
Just 2. That's it.
Akron, Westfield, Hinton, Heelan, SBL, District 3 in Nebraska. I mean, good Lord. We've week 5, we just keep getting better and better and better and better.
Honestly, you just gotta let your voice be heard on Twitter. That's all you gotta do is vote for the game of the week.
Let us know. And if you have a game that you'd like us to cover or a story that you'd like us to cover, shoot us over. Shoot us a tweet or an email. Either Jesse and I, we'll we respond to emails and stuff, and we'd love to come out and cover you guys and tell us anything it's kind of fun that's going on in your area that we may miss. Obviously we can't be everywhere, but we'd like to try and get those good stories out there.
I think Jesse needs to do a story on the Spirit Lake kicker.
Right? Can you kick as far as him?
I was going to say, let's try it. I won pump, pass, and kick in
really?
Junior high, yeah.
Look
at this. You see that foot right there? It's size 14, folks.
You didn't win it at our fantasy one. I won that, but we'll have to do an all.
I'll just do it in dress pants and dress shoes. There we go.
I was say, can we see Jesse's football socks by the way?
There we go. Yep, there they are.
I'll
just wear those too. See, a lot of luck on my side.
I wore my American flag socks. The stripes are down there, but. Big Saturday coming up tomorroa. We'll touch on that just a little bit. Nebraska looking for its first win over Troy. Iowa hosting UNI, night game at Kinnick. Panthers always play the Hawkeyes tough, but I think the Hawkeyes do come away with it. And Iowa State trying to make lightning strike twice in 2 different seasons, taking on Kyler Murray and Oklahoma.
Say no Maker Bayfield.
No Maker Bayfield. He doesn't exist. But yeah, Baker Mayfield now with the Browns, so looking good. And of course, my Buckeyes down in. Yeah, a neutral site game in Arlington against TCU. Whatever. Should be a good time. The Iowa State-Oklahoma game you can catch on KCAU-9 at 11 o'clock. Then, if you're interested, like me, the Ohio State-TCU game will also be on KCAU-9 at 7 o'clock. We'll also have highlights
from... I hope it's not a shootout, though, because you're standing late. You got to come sleep, my man.
I know, but at the same time, I'll go to sleep on Sunday. It'll be worth it if we go on a little bit late. But we'll have highlights of those. We've got highlights from we're planning on all 4 GPAC games tomorrow. Morningside's on the road. Northwestern, Dordt, and Briar Cliff all at home. Of course, Briar Cliff looking to move to 3-0 for the first time.
They win that game. They got to receive some votes. I mean, they got to get some love.
We focus on high school football, but we're talking about college here for a second. Briar Cliff knocked out number 25 Dakota State to go to 2-0, and they don't even receive any votes.
Not even one.
Now Hastings is receiving votes. The team that they're welcoming in tomorrow. If they win,
they've got to.
You got to believe that they would be receiving votes. But
it's like
you know what?
Dangerfield. No
Coach Wagner might be selling that to this program because they have improved a lot. But again, I'll be in tomorrow for Jesse, so we'll have all of those highlights coming up for you tomorrow. J-Mac, any final comments? Alrighty, that's going to do it for Week 4. We are on to Week 5. Stay tuned tomorrow. We will go into our laboratory and try to figure out which games you guys can vote on. We'll have those coming up tomorrow for you to vote on Twitter. Make sure you check out our Sports Zone KCAU-9 Twitter page. It is almost 11:30. It is time for us to get everything on the website and hit the hay. We will see you next week for Week 5. Going to be a good one. Take it easy, Facebook.